Hey everyone, and welcome back. I cannot think of anyone better to join me for our penultimate session than our good and very long-standing friend Denise from Lil Owls. How are you, Denise?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Yeah, I'm great. And I'm sure I've shared this before when you've joined us, but Denise and I actually knew each other before Design Cuts even started. So it's been, I think, nearly a decade now.
So very long.
It's pretty cool though. You were one of the first ever people to collaborate with us back in the day, way before we did any of these live sessions. So I love that we've been able to continue this.
Me too. Oh, I love y'all.
Likewise. It should be a really valuable session. Denise, what are you going to be sharing?
Today we're going to do something a little different. Rather than textures, we're going to do being creative with light overlays and different lighting techniques in your photos. So I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, without further ado, I know there's a lot to cover. So over to you, Denise. The floor is yours, as they say.
All right, we're going to start with that flower actually. So this is just raw right out of camera. There's not anything on it. And I'm going to edit it a little bit in Lightroom and then pop it into Photoshop where I add some overlays and some other effects. And I can do this part in Lightroom or in Photoshop Camera Raw. Just kind of depends on what I'm doing. But since I have several photos open at the same time, I'm starting here in Lightroom. And I'm just adjusting the exposure because this is an older photo that I did a couple years ago, and it was slightly less exposed than I might do something now. And I'm actually going to play in the Euphoria presets because I want this to have almost a whimsical, slightly vintage kind of look to it. And this collection is really good for that. And I'm just scrolling through real quick so you can see the differences that these kind of allow you to get there. But I think I'm going to go back up here to that number 3. I really love using presets because it gives me a direction without a whole lot of work to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then I will tweak that preset after I get it added on there. I don't just use them as they are. I like to go ahead and tweak it for each photo. And there's nothing specific I'm doing. I'm eyeballing it until I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I want it to look like. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of my presets have the background kind of matted, like you see. It's not crispy clear black. It's kind of matted, more like a film set. And if you don't like that matteness, just pull that curve down and that'll take that right out. But I like that kind of soft look, filmy kind of look that I get by that curve being so far up. And then I always add some sharpening in Lightroom and Photoshop. And I just hold my Option Alt key down to mask some of that off because, if we don't mask it all, we're sharpening every single pixel. And I don't want to do that because I'll add a lot of grain that may not be necessary. And I really just want to sharpen my subject. So as I move that masking up, anything that's white is what's left that I'm sharpening. So just masking it off to get mostly the subject there. And then I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to pop that into Photoshop. I'm going to pull that down just a little. So I just pop that into Photoshop with the adjustments, and then it's ready for us to spot heal off. I like spot healing in Photoshop better than Lightroom because it just seems to work out better for me. Make sure it went over. I was reading it. There we go. Okay, so in Photoshop, I'm going to spot heal off any blemishes that I don't like before I add anything else to it or do any other sharpening. And I don't know what these black spots were, because it doesn't look like pollen
or something. Yeah.
But I'll spot heal off pollen. There's like an aphid over here on this petal, and I'll spot heal off that right there, and just clean it up to where I want it exactly before I do anything else. And then I will do my second layer of sharpening, because I like to sharpen before I add anything else. I don't sharpen after I add textures and stuff. So I'm going to call that layer high pass. I duplicated the layer to put the sharpening on its own layer. And I go to filter, other high pass filter, and I go ahead and for my photos, I have that sitting at a 12 radius, and I put that on soft light or overlay, and that will tighten up all the edges and really make my subject nice and crispy clear up here. And then once I get to that point, I'm now ready to add textures and lighting and anything like that I might be considering. So for these flowers, I'm actually looking at a couple of the sets that come in the Ultimate Photography and Texture Bundle. And that's the Color and Light set and the Festival Lights, the bokeh overlays. And what I love about these is the bokeh overlays give you the fun lighting, bokeh bubbles that you might see in the background of a blurred photo sometimes. And then the light overlays give us some fun rainbows and some directional lighting and some effects like that. So for this one, I'm going to go and play in the Color and Light set. And I'm going to try just a few of these to see, what is it that we're going to get? Do I like it? Do I not like it? And on this set, I've actually told you the blend mode here at the end that I thought that looked best at. So like this one says hard
cool.
light.
So it's like a little clue for people.
Yeah, little hint. And of course you don't have to use that one, but in creating these and playing with them, I, tried different blend modes and thought, okay, the hard light is where I intended this one to give its full effect. So I kind of like, being able to do that and then turn the blend mode down. So it's kind of a little cheater on the end of those.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this. Let's see what else. We can add some lighting effects, like some directional lighting. And this one says hard light also. So that's really fun.
That's really nice. It's like a summer's day.
Yeah, I don't like the oranginess of this. And so if you put a texture on there and you're thinking, okay, it's almost there, but it's not quite the right coloring, you can go into your image adjustments, hue, saturation, and you can desaturate some of that yellow out of there if it, better suits your photo to be a cleaner color of light coming in. So don't be afraid to manipulate some of these, just like you'd manipulate a layer or a texture on your photo. Let's just see what we got here. This one says screen mode. Let's set it down just to give you another look at something before I ultimately go into what I was kind of intending. So see, that's kind of fun and light and bright and gives you a little bit of a rainbow. So for this one, I've actually played with it a little bit, and I like number 10 because it has some light effect and some rainbow in it, which was kind of, combining that 8 and 11 that I had tried there at the beginning. Maybe it combined this one and this one, but it combined it into one layer. And I'm going to put that on hard light. And see, now this, I don't like as much color toning, so I'm going to maybe desaturate it a little bit. I do want that kind of rainbow light back there, but I might pull a tiny bit of color down. And I also can adjust the opacity of that layer if I want. And then one thing with, doing the light overlays, the opacity is a big thing. You don't want to overdo stuff, so don't be afraid to just back off a little bit. And then a lot of times some of these effects, that lighting's coming in from the background, so you don't necessarily want it on top of your subject. It looks like then you have competing lighting sources almost. So a lot of times I will remove some of the light effect off my main subject, so then it then is kind of radiating around and behind it, but it's not so brushed off that it's making a significant difference where you're like, oh, that looks weird. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually like where that's sitting. I'm going to add some of our festival lights on top of that.
Oh, I love bokeh. It's so much fun to work with.
Too. I love them.
It's my favorite.
Then I'm going to put these on soft light. You can do soft light, you can do overlay, you can do hard light. It really depends on how vivid and overwhelming you want those to be. I actually want them to be kind of soft and blending in the background. That's number 10. Let's try number 9. I like the color here in this number 9. Cut that off. Let's put that on soft light. Oh yeah, see, that's really pretty. And while I'm on that layer, I'm going to go up into image adjustments levels, and I'm going to tweak the brightness of this one a little bit. Look at that. Oh, the color's so pretty. And then I don't want the bokeh bubbles on the flower itself. So I'm going to put a mask on there, and I'm going to strategically get the bubbles off of that, because, bokeh bubbles show up in the background. It's the blur and the lights and maybe water spots on the back that the light is reflecting off of. So it's not like you're going to have a bokeh bubble sitting on the front of a flower and way back in the background. That doesn't look natural. And here we're trying to do this where we're getting more natural effects rather than something that looks odd because we didn't think about that. So I'm just going to, oh, there we go. And then I can also adjust the opacity of that if I want to lighten it up just a hair so it's a little more realistic. One other thing that I might show you on this one that I really love, that has nothing to do with the textures, but is another lighting effect that I love to do, is a vignette, a colored vignette, not a regular vignette. So I'm going to add a gradient to this. And, the gradients are fun. You've got several different styles. You can go linear, radial, angled. There's lots of different reflected and diamonds. So there's lots of different gradients that we can do there. For this one, I'm doing the radial. Hang on, let me get there we go. And I'm going to reverse it because I want it to kind of be a vignette towards the outside. I don't want it orange. I want it to be more of a pink. So I'm going to do that and hit OK and put that on soft light. And then look at that pretty kind of whimsical color that we then have added into our photo. And I love that. And, you can do that with any of the gradient colors. You can play around with the color that's on the gradient by clicking on this. And then maybe you want that to be a little more blue. And I can get in here to some other blue tones. Like that's really pretty toning there. I don't like green. I do like pink and kind of blue tones personally. So that's why I kind of went pinker with this one. And then you can also change the scale. Maybe you didn't want it as tight in as I had it. And we can make that scale a little bigger so that it's not got a tight circle. It's got a wide circle. And that pink is a little more on the edges. So just some really fun things that we can do there on that flower. And here's kind of, hang on, I hit a button. I didn't mean to.
Okay. Denise, why does everything you make feel like a fairy tale?
Because that's what I want it to be, a fairy tale.
It's so pretty.
So that's kind of where we went with some different looks, and it's not so overdone that you'd be like, oh, it's kind of garish. And I could mask off this here on this gradient too. A little, just to kind of pop it off that subject if I wanted. That's kind of where I was going with this. I'm happy with that right there. What do you think?
I think it's stunning.
Let's do it again with this yellow flower. So some of this is kind of basic and repetitive. Once you get your basic steps down, you're kind of just repeating those over and over, for each photo that you're wanting to do. This is a flower I took a couple years ago too. I like that right there. I'm still in this Euphoria set because I still want that same kind of whimsical look to the flower. I think I'm going to stay there on that number 11. Just kind of tweak my settings here. I might add a little bit of contrast and just tweak my highlights and just see, where do I want to end up? What am I actually wanting that to do? This one has a little bit of desaturation. Now with yellow flowers, if I had that at the no desaturation at all, like set at 0, look how garish that yellow is. And yellow and red are always the most garish colors of flowers to take pictures of. So I always desaturate yellow and red out to a softer color because they almost look neon when you photograph them straight out of camera. But a lot of times I will pump up the vibrance because, saturation pumps up the reds and the green, the reds and the yellows, the warm tones, whereas the vibrance will pump up the other things without overdoing the warm tones. And so, especially with the yellow and the red, I'll desaturate that down, but I'll up that vibrance. And again, if we didn't want it matte, we could just pull that down. But I do like the softness that matteness adds. And I'm going to go into my sharpening and just up that and then mask it off to just my subject right there.
Why do I feel like you could do this all day, Denise?
I feel like I've been in one long photo project for a decade.
Nothing wrong with that. There's 3 main packs. So we have the Lightroom packs, but also the Ultimate texture and photography pack. That's actually a collaborative pack that Denise teamed up with us on years ago. And it's been really, really popular. So tons of
It's still
textures.
one of my very, very favorite ones. And sometimes I'm like sad that I gave it to you and don't even have it on my own website.
Oh no, but it's brought so much joy to the community.
It's got such good stuff in it. All right, so again, I just spot healed off a couple of dirty spots on those leaves, and I'm going to do my high pass filter to get my sharpening in. Hit the wrong button there. Filter, other, high pass. Still sitting at about a radius of 12, and I'm going to put that on soft light. And just see, do I like where that's at? Do I want to put it on overlay for a little bit stronger? See, that's almost too much, but you know what? If it's too much, you can just pull the opacity down. Just kind of play with it. I think I'm going to put that back on soft light though. There we go. And then, let's see, I'm going to go into our color and light and just see what we like here. 1, 2, 3. Let's try this one. I really want this to have rainbows around the edge, so I've played with some of these rainbows. This one is on screen mode. I see right here, it tells me, oh, look at that. See? Look how pretty that is. I just get so excited. You know, I work very serendipitous, and when I start playing with stuff and it gives me, like, I might not have a specific image in mind, but when I get done and it just like speaks to me, then I know I made the right choice. And let's see, this one's hard. Like this one has that light and that rainbow. Oh, look how pretty that is. I don't want full opacity. I want to turn that down. I just wanted to give that fun creaminess in the background there. Maybe I'll turn this one down a little bit. But you see how, especially with the color and the light, your goal here is not to be 100%. Your goal is to kind of bring it down where you're enhancing what is going on in that photo. Let's try one of these bokeh ones because I like them. And sometimes, you know, I'm not picking a specific bokeh one. I'm just trying them out to see, you know, do I like this? Do I not like this? Do I want to try something else? Ooh, that one's pretty. But this number 9 does seem to be one of the ones that I go to.
Isn't that always the case, though? I find with often these packs, there will be like 2 or 3 favorites.
Oh, that's pretty. Oh, definitely. I need to make, like, if somebody had a suggestion, you know, make a separate folder and just move your favorite ones into that folder so that they were all, ooh, that's pretty too.
The go-tos.
Yeah, so that you have like a folder of your favorites. And I'm like, you know, I need to do that too because I've made thousands of textures and people are like, what's your favorite? And I'm like, it's like making me pick my children. I don't want to pick a favorite. I made them all, you know. Okay, so I've just masked the our bokeh off our flower so that you just see it popping in the background there. And to me, that is what adds the magic to this photo. Look how much prettier that is with those bokeh bubbles.
That's stunning, actually, how it frames that.
Yeah, because kind of here's where we started and where we are now. And it just kind of made it magical.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so that's actually where I'm going to end up on this one. Let's see if there was anything. No, I want to go to the tiny pink flowers. Okay, so this is a little tiny bush with pink flowers. Straight out of camera. So I'm just going to adjust the opacity. Sorry, the exposure. And we'll come up here to our carousel collection because I love this collection with flowers. It's kind of whimsical. It has some gradients in it. It gives you some different kind of looks. Just scroll through these and see. Oh, look at that one right there. All right, so we're going to go. Let's go for this one. I don't know. That one's pretty too. That one's warmer. Let's stick with the one we got. So I'm going to go through and just adjust some of these. Some of these too, even after I add the lighting effects, I could then go and add a texture on top of all of that. But on ones where I'm putting different lighting things and like we're doing on this, I would do all this work before I added textures, and textures would still be the very last step. Mask that off to my subject. Oh yeah. You've got a little bit of blown out there. Let's just pull that down a hair. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to do one last one here after I do this flower one. I'm going to do a person photo just to kind of give you an idea on something that's not a flower. Flowers are what I tend to take most of. Although this year I have kind of changed my photography focus with that latest workshop that I put out, and I've started doing vignettes of different still lifes and stuff again. Kind of go through phases where I want to do still lifes and other phases where I want to go back to flowers. It just kind of flip-flop back and forth sometimes in what I like to photograph. Keeps it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to pop a high pass filter on there and then go into our lighting ones. I think for this one, I want some light coming in from this left side. So I'm going to pull a light overlay, put that on hard light because it says hard light, and just see, oh, that's pretty. But I don't like it to be orange. So this is definitely a case where I would go into the hue saturation and pull that into some cleaner color. I don't want it being warm, but I don't want it orange. And that looks a little bit softer. I like that. I could also adjust the levels if I want to brighten it or darken any part of it just to see. There we go. I like that. And then I can adjust the opacity if it's too strong. Oh, that's pretty. Let's see. Let's go into our bokeh bubbles and just see what we have here.
I love the variety of the bokeh, actually. You've got a lot of very different looking ones in that set.
Yeah, and I like the different color tones. I do like blue textures a lot. Oh, look at that. Because I like the toning that a blue will give a photo. A lot of times, too, I'll add like a soft blue layer into my photo. Like, let me do that real quick just to give you a look. Just a solid color layer in like a navy. Put that on like a soft light. And it's like a little blue tinge that'll give your photos. And so I'll do that a lot with flower photos because it gives a fun extra oomph to it that a lot of other colors don't do. So I tend to like a lot of blue textures because I like that extra blue tinge that a blue layer gives your photo. I'm actually going to mask this off a little bit from some of our flower just to kind of strategically have some where I want it or don't want it. There we go. And another thing that I'm going to do on this is do a different type of light fill. Because maybe we want like a soft center light to really draw our eye to the center of our photo. And so I can do that with a gradient, just like I did the gradient on one of the others. I want it to be radial, perhaps, but I don't want it to be orange. I want it to be more of a clean white light kind of look. And so if we hit OK and then put that on soft light or overlay. Now, if you do one of those, like soft light, it's a little bit of a hazy white, and I'm not sure that I like it to be hazy. So I will a lot of times play with the different screen modes until I get the one that I want. You know, this one might have looked best as soft. And then if you have that box open, you can actually adjust where that goes. Can you see me move that light around the photo?
Yeah, this
that's really
look
nice.
like I'm watching Tinkerbell flying around or something.
Yeah, a little bit, but now
nice.
you can kind of move that into a very specific location, which on the next photo, I want that in a different location than the center. But a lot of times I want a center pop, and that'll kind of pull the lightness, pull your eye into wherever you put that, and then I can adjust the opacity. to see if I just want it to be a little bit lighter, but not so light that it's obvious. And then I think that's where I wanted to go with that one. So I do want to show you here on a girl photo. And, I don't take photos of people hardly ever because I just don't like taking photos of people. So this is a stock photo that I have gotten to just demonstrate for you. And it's already basically edited because stock photos don't come raw. So I'm not going to edit this beyond adding some light effects to it. But I kind of want this to have some rainbow in it, just to kind of look and see, what can I add to a photo of something like this? And that says hard light. So, ooh, look at that. So you can just kind of frame out a person with a rainbow, and I love that. Because I know a lot of people do the people photos. I don't know. I don't want to talk to people that much. Number 8 is fun. Let's try number 6. Let's try this one. So what I like about this one's on the screen mode. So this one makes it a little hazy, but this is one where I might go into image adjustments, levels, and tweak the levels because I can make it brighter, but pull the haze out with my darkening slider there. And then you'll see we have slight rainbow instead of slight hazy rainbow. So that's kind of a fun thing that we can do. Let's try.
Very cool.
So here is fun, just adding some sun flare in. And I know with people photography, that's really popular. And this is a case where I would definitely add a mask to that. And I would mask it off of the girl because, this sun flare is very obviously coming in from behind the girl. So if we leave that on the girl's face, it looks weird. So you want to be careful when you have directional lighting like that it's not sitting on top of a subject that it really would be sitting behind.
Yeah, like it would be coming through the trees, but way back in the background.
Kind of at the back of her head. So you don't want it full on her face at the same time that it's coming at the back of her head. So keep that in mind when you're adding sun flares. If you're adding, let's say we go ahead and add a gradient in there because maybe I want some extra light here at that tree perhaps. They're reflected, which I'm not going to use right now, but that's a really nice gradient fill to add into landscapes. Like if you had an ocean and a sky, you could add that into a landscape. And the radial would be nice and round. And you can see we can move that right over here into the tree. And the radial is fairly large, and kind of round, and you can change the scale. If we tried the diamond instead, do you see how much smaller that radius got? And we were really kind of more fixed to a spot, like maybe a spot coming through the tree or something. That's kind of fun to experiment with, are the shapes. And maybe I don't want that to be white, but maybe I don't want that to be orange. Maybe I want it to be a soft buttery yellow perhaps. Like it's the sunlight coming in, but it's not so overwhelming or weird looking. And you can just kind of play with those to see, how is it that you want that to end up. And you can kind of see that it's a star, as you move it around. But I kind of want that as if it were coming through the tree. And if I turn that texture off, you can see it's just very slight right over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of fun, the different things that we can add a little bit of the rainbow back. Kind of like that one right there. That's kind of fun. So just some things to kind of keep in mind, especially when you're doing like people or a subject, mask that off your person so that you don't have conflicting light information from different directions where they shouldn't be coming from. If it's coming from the back of the head, mask off the front of the subject.
Love it. Really subtle as well in this example, which I love. It doesn't always have to be like super fairy tale, as fun as that is. Sometimes it can just be a little subtle nuance.
Yes, I like, it's got its place, but if you're doing especially like portrait photography for people, like you're actually on a job and you're selling people prints, they might like that overdone fun look for a minute, but 2 years from now, they're going to think, what were we thinking? And you want that to be a photo they're going to love forever, not a photo they're going to love for a moment. Or they may just look at it and think, what were you doing there? You want it to be something natural, especially if you do things like wedding photography or things like that. You want it to be more classic. You want to add, some whimsical touches in where you can, but you don't want it to be so overwhelming that somebody's just not going to like it.
Yeah, 100%.
Alrighty. You got any questions? Anything else you want to see that I didn't cover? That's the 4 photos that I thought we might just kind of look at and see what we could get.
Well, first of all, that was incredible. So thank you, Denise. As ever, love those 4 examples. And
another thing that I might add on something like this, you can add a solid color layer to give a soft, pretty haze too. Like if I just want to do a soft haze on something, I could put this on screen mode and bring the opacity down to very, very low. But look how we can get a really pretty soft colored haze on something that kind of adds to the whimsy, and you might be interested in trying those out.
Mm-hmm.
So just another
That's really
thing.
nice.
Just don't be afraid to play with those color fills, the gradients, the vignetting, and then pick different colors. A navy vignette's really pretty, just like a gray vignette. So, kind of experiment with adding some color in there and not just using a plain, boring black or white or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. That was fantastic, as ever. Actually, one of my favorite sessions you've done. I love the variety of light effects you shared. As I said at the start, nearly 10 years, really, it's been, Denise, with us working together. So thank you. It
has been a long time.
So fantastic.
Thank you.
That was absolutely great, Denise. We'd love to have you back in the future, of course.
Thank you. I always love coming.
That was great.
I enjoy you guys so much. Thank you.
Likewise. Take care, Denise. Chat soon. Bye.
Thank you.